taking his Nobel Prize money? You know,
it's a Nobel Prize.
That's a strange reaction from a Nobel Prize winner.
That's going to win somebody the Nobel Prize.
That's Milton Friedman. He got a goddamn Nobel Prize.
That's where my Nobel Prize is gonna go.
The controversial and reclusive American poet Simon Grimm has been awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature.
The Nobel Prize?
He does not deserve.
oh yeah.
The Nobel Prize laureate, 1991, Aung San Suu Kyi.
The Picard who won the Nobel Prize for chemistry.
Jane getting a Nobel Prize?
They don't give Nobel Prizes for space junk.
They give King the Nobel Prize. Can you believe it?
They've given this genetics fellow the Nobel Prize. A man doesn't know the first thing about human nature.
Tomorrow, I'm off to claim my Nobel Prize.
To win the Nobel Prize, you have to find something. Am I right?
26 Nobel Prize winners among us.
Unfortunately, you won't be the first Nobel Prize winner with a sex skin.
Yes or not, when people find out about this, you could win a Nobel Prize. Oh, God.
Well, maybe a Nobel Prize.
Win the Nobel Prize?
What does the Nobel Prize mean to Joseph Castleman?
Well, the scientist won the Nobel Prize.
Who's that?
He won the Nobel Prize.
Why are we told not to cooperate with the French? Just so you can steal a Nobel Prize while something is being passed around that causes death?
Why haven't you won the Nobel Prize?
Winner of the Nobel Prize, and now the head of the most prestigious psychiatric institute on the West Coast.
Winner of the Nobel Prize for his works in the use of chemotherapy on severe psychosis.
Winner of the 1932 Nobel Prize in Physics for the creation of quantum mechanics.
Wow, this looks like a meeting for Nobel Prize Winners Anonymous.
Yeah, because you and Stephen Hawking keep getting screwed over when it comes to Nobel Prizes.
Yeah, but she also said I was going to win the Nobel Prize for literature. He won the Nobel Prize for inventing the artificial appendix.
Yeah. Look, before we go to Stockholm and pick up the Nobel Prizes, I want him through the whole works, okay?
Sure. You'd be a great schoolboy in a world of Nobel Prize winners.
You didn't hear about my Nobel Prize?
You got a Nobel Prize in that head of yours.
You know, if there is such a thing as a Nobel Prize for fathers, this guy should get it.
A special report. Young electronics genius, Daryl Mabel, has just won the Nobel Prize.
Your wife? Who just won the Nobel Prize?
Actually, I think this will get you the Nobel Prize for Peace.
And Harriman's papers will bring the merits of your Nobel Prize into question.
He got a medal. Nobel Prize.
And if this turns out to be the one,
And Bob Gallo gets the Nobel Prize.
The winner of the Nobel Prize for Physics is Corinne Elizabeth Bailey.
And to put yourself on top, you just happen to have had to expose me as Nancy Brown in your attempt to win a Nobel Prize.
And we'll get the Nobel Prize.
An inch away from the Nobel Prize for physics?
A Nobel Prize for guesswork?
Humphrey Buffing, the poet. He's on the short list for the Nobel Prize.
Because I won the Nobel Prize, or because I inspire his latent homoerotic wet dreams?
Congratulations on the Nobel Prize.
Don't forget to put us up for that Nobel Prize.
They hand out Nobel Prizes for stuff like that?
Don't you think that's worth a Nobel Prize or two? Here.
Dr. Stone, a Nobel Prize winner, twice president of the National Academy of Sciences, is well known here in Washington.
Get out of here. Nobel Prize winners ejaculating in jars.
He deserved a bloody Nobel Prize, but he hated sucking up to politicians, or anybody.
He has just won the Nobel Prize.
He'll never get his Nobel Prize now.
He's going to get the Nobel Prize before he's 20.
He's on the short list for the Nobel Prize. He has AIDS.
He wants to win the Nobel Prize.
He won a Nobel Prize. Hey, it's not every day somebody wins a bowling trophy, let alone the Nobel Prize.
I would have thought the nominations for the Nobel Prize would have been secret.
However, with that guidance, we not only had a chance at winning an Oscar, but possibly a Nobel Prize, too.
I accept the Nobel Prize for Peace.
I don't think it'll win him another Nobel Prize.
I don't want to be late. Arno Penzias was late for his Nobel Prize? I don't think so.
He wins the Pulitzer Prize, the Nobel Prize, the Congressional Medal of Honor, gets his bust in the Hall of Fame.
If this shit wasn't illegal, guys, we'd be up for the Nobel Prize.
If we survive, we win a Nobel Prize.
I kept my eyes on the Nobel Prize.
I'll think of you in Stockholm when I accept the Nobel Prize.
I mean, if you're gonna win the Nobel Prize, a Pulitzer, and an Oscar,
This is when you gotta start bringing it.
I mean, I have Nobel Prize winners sanding and painting decks, an economist on kitchen duty, and a television executive who's studying fur seals.
I mean, nobody's going to give us a Nobel Prize for murder. That's how the world's going to see it.
I mean, they invent things. They win Nobel Prizes.
I mean, you're both getting the Nobel Prize this evening.
And I'm here to tell you that you're being considered for the Nobel Prize.
I'm Kelly Lang, and I'm standing in front of the home of Dr. Eli Michelson, who was just awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Now,
in fact, he got a Nobel Prize for it in 1909. Truth is, a guy named Nikola...
I see a Nobel Prize in your future. I see a Nobel Prize. Thank you.
I shall soon win the Nobel Prize for both storytelling and poetry.
Is the Nobel Prize paid in installments or in a lump sum like the lottery?
I tell him that his father has won the Nobel Prize, and do you know what he says?
Maybe we should put him up for the Nobel Prize. Alas.
Honored to be here today to receive the Nobel Prize. I have always loved stuff.
It is a great honor to introduce the Nobel Prize winner in literature, Mr. Joseph Castleman.
It is my great honor and pleasure to tell you, Mr. Castleman, that you have been chosen to receive this year's Nobel Prize in Literature.
It is not yet known whether his elder son, Nobel Prize winner Jerry Cornelius, will continue with his father's research.
It's called Spot the Nobel Prize winner.
It's hard to believe that you were born in a country that hands out the Nobel Prize.
It's like the Nobel Prize for math.
I won my Nobel Prize in 1967. My wife won hers in
July 8, 1979, all the fathers of Nobel Prize winners were rounded up.
Lab one.
Front page, American scientist rejects Nobel Prize.
My granddad reckons that if there was a Nobel Prize for being a dickhead, Troy Carrington would win it every year.
Next year, we're going for the Nobel Prize. That's where the big... You know, next year when they give out that Nobel Prize, I'm going to be up there, and I'm going to tell them about...
Steve, darling. Nobel Prize?
Nobel Prize.
Nobel Prize, how about that?
Nobel Prize winner.
Oh, wait, he won the Nobel Prize.
What?
Now, I'm going to send the hotel recording along with the personal letter the day before he gets the Nobel Prize.
Now that he's got the Nobel Prize, he's only going to be worse.
Oh, yes. The Nobel Prize for Literature. Aren't you the man who didn't get it?
Seems as though your husband won the Nobel Prize.
So fuck